Hey guys, welcome back. I know I haven't done one of these interviews in a while, and I apologize. The holidays came around. I've been dealing with some injuries and everything. No excuses, but I wanted to hit you guys up with a new interview that I think is one that's long overdue, one that can help a tremendous amount of people, and one that I think is just a great story overall. And so I'm bringing on my client Randy right now. Randy, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
Good, good. So Randy has a really interesting story. And if you clicked on this video, you obviously saw the thumbnail. So I'm sure you're pretty intrigued by this interview. And what I want to do with this interview is I want to explain a little bit about Randy's situation, where he was when he came to me, what we've done over the past. I mean, what has it been? A year and a
Year
half?
and a half. Yep,
Yeah,
year
year
and
and
a
a
half.
half now.
September 2019. So it was.
Yeah, wow. It just and we've developed a really great relationship along the way, but I want him to tell you guys his story in his words. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some changes we've made along the way, not only to just his calories, because that's an obvious, right? But some things we've worked on from a behavioral standpoint, a lot of psychology, a lot of mental things that we've had to work through and stuff, and just how he's been able to progress and thrive. So, with that being said, Randy, you were about 480 or so when you came to me, right? Right
When I
around,
came to you, I was about 480. That's
yeah.
correct.
And you are currently weighing in at what today?
Like 202.
Yep, perfect. So guys, that's the context right there. So let's find out how Randy got up to 480, okay, in the first place. And let's find out what we've done since then in the past year and a half working together. So, Randy, why don't you fill in the blanks wherever I
Yeah, sure.
left off there?
Um, so really quick, like David said, like my name is Randy. I am currently a master's student in psychology, which is going to be very communicative to what I'm gonna say next. And so long story short, um, I was like very obese all my life, right? Genetics was very bad and all that. Um, and I was about 400 pounds in high school. I'm 25 now, right? So that was like a while ago. And the major story is that I lost 200 pounds the first time, right? So there was two times I lost 200 pounds. But the way I did it, and we'll kind of get into this later, was too extreme. I never ate like an Oreo. Like if my fiance, well, like was girl or like my girlfriend at the time, when she would say, "Here, have this Oreo," I would just start panicking, like literally. So right, so then like I lost the weight, but it was too extreme, right? And then I developed binge eating disorder, right? Diagnosed clinical psychologist and all that. I gained 300 pounds back in about a year. I gained 300 pounds in a year.
Let me stop you just real quick, and I don't want to do
Sure.
this too
No.
often, but that's a really for people that are like sitting here like 300 pounds in a year. What was your thought process during that? Like, were you even really cognizant of what was going on?
It felt out of control.
Okay.
Um, so, I know, I I did like a lot of research on eating disorders, and I experienced it myself, which actually, like better than research, to be honest. And when I lost it, because it was too restrictive, right? Like what is Newton's law? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction, right? So the more you restrict, I had to binge as a way to compensate. So then during that year period, I would go restaurant hopping, McDonald's, Wendy's, Portillo, or like just all the restaurants, and it would be like chain, like it would be like in one sitting, because I felt like I wanted to regain that freedom
Mhm.
that was taken away from me through that extreme dieting phase, right?
And
And
we I
yeah,
think we've talked about it before
mm,
too. That was when I was in the army. That was part of the same loss of control, loss of freedom thing that led me to the opposite, to the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah.
So it's all a control thing. And for I've had this question a lot from people. It's like, well, don't you just get full? Like, how can you keep eating? And for people that don't understand, when you get very low in body fat, right? Like your hunger cues are completely thrown off. You don't know when you're hungry or when you're full. Well, same thing happens when you start getting obese.
Yes, sir.
You don't have those. It's not a matter of fact of being like feeling full. You just don't feel full. Like your hormones are
Yeah.
just all out of whack. And so for people that might be watching this, like, how could you just keep eating? Like, how does somebody get that way? It's because your body's cues are all thrown off. You don't actually know when you're full.
Yeah. And the thing was, and this is what I always tell people. And again, I did like, besides, our work, I did, for more of like the mental side, extensive psychotherapy throughout the whole process. And one of the things that we had to really contend with was I'm binging, but forget that. I'm not even enjoying the food. I'm actually experiencing pain, right? Not pleasure, pain, because at a certain quantity, my stomach is hurting. I'm getting sick. I'm vomiting. So, in other words, why am I doing something that is giving me pain, right? So, it's very counterintuitive, very weird. Well, I'm experiencing pleasure not from the food, from the freedom that's associated with the I get to eat whatever the hell I want, forget the world, forget diets, forget David Mathis, you know,
Yep.
forget all these fitness people. I want to be myself, free.
It was a coping mechanism.
It was yeah, yes. And then what my therapist and what we were talking about too was there's something called the principle of diminishing return.
Mhm.
As quantity increases, the pleasure is going to decrease too. So, for example, nothing beats the first slice of pizza. And the second slice is pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, third slice is getting a little bit worse. Fourth, fifth. So I started to realize I'm going to stop at the quantity that maximizes like the amount of pleasure.
Mhm.
When the pleasure starts to get too low, why am I even going to eat that much? I'm not even enjoying it. So it's not rational.
Right. It's learning how to take the power away from the food
Yeah.
and giving it back to you.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
I think a lot of times when people, maybe they haven't been clinically diagnosed with binge eating like you did, right? I think a lot of people find themselves overeating too much because, first of all, I think they're eating too fast. Second of all, I think they're eating
That
out of
happens.
emotion. And third, they just have this disconnect between, you know, thinking that they have to have everything now and it's not going to be there later. Like
Boom.
we're not hunters and gatherers anymore. Like food is going to be there when we want it, when we need it, you know, hopefully for most, right? So we have to get out of this mindset that like I have to eat it all now or else I'm not going to have it later.
Yeah. So that's exactly called the a famine mindset, right? So for example, back in the olden days, and our ancient ancestors, when they would see a woolly mammoth, that would be a very rare sight. They would all go and kill it and eat the whole mammoth in that sitting. Why? Because they know the next day the mammoth won't be there. So they know that they have a window of opportunity to really seize the day and just eat whatever the whole damn mammoth, even if they don't want it. So we kind of view McDonald's and these places that we restrict
Mhm.
as our woolly mammoth. We put ourselves in that ancient context. So on Sunday, we're going to binge on McDonald's because guess what? Monday, back on the diet, back on the
Right.
grind. So I created a window of opportunity. Sunday, eat everything because Monday's not going to be there. Here's the solution. If I know that Monday, the McDonald's is going to be there, I don't feel the need to seize the day because that mammoth is going to be walking around the wild on Monday. So I'm not going to eat it all on Sunday. That is the that is the antidote to binge eating disorder. At least one of them, the mental antidote, right there.
It's having that realistic conversation with yourself because I know like when I had my eating disorder when I was underweight, it's the same thing when you're very overweight, you're going through this. But any sort of eating disorder is a mental health issue.
Of course it
It
is.
messes with your chemistry. So it's not like I could have been like, oh, Randy, like, why can't you see you're doing this? It's because you you have a different skewed reality going on in your head.
That's
And
true.
you have to go and get professional help to figure out how to skew out of that reality that you think into the actual reality. And that's why, I'm glad you're talking a lot about your help with your psychologist and things like that. I've talked about it before, because when you're in deep, guys, you cannot get out by yourself. It is possible to get out of it, not by yourself, because you don't have the brain chemistry. You don't have the capacity to see things in the way that they actually are. You are seeing them in the way that you've constructed to make your reality safe and controllable.
Amen. Yeah, no, that's completely true. And and I know this is like a very common thing people say, like mental health like needs to be talked about. And I and that is completely true. But I still think there is that stigma. I still think there's that old like bodybuilder days where just like work hard and just grind every day, 7 days a week,
Yeah.
6-hour arm days, right? And it's just that those kind of days are over with, right? I mean, like now, and they're not long term like effective, right? And I think nowadays there is a huge psychological problem surrounding food in our particular, a fitness community.
Hmm.
I do think that people have binge eating disorder, but it's not diagnosed. Or me, I didn't compensate. So I didn't purge, I didn't go to the gym extra, I just kept eating, right? So I feel like people just have some good compensatory strategy where they go crazy the next day, and so like the weight gain is not too noticeable as 300 pounds. But binge eating disorder, is is running rampant. And I feel like there needs to be more coaches like you, because we spoke about a lot of strategies. Because think about it. When I was 480, when I came to you, I was at the height of the binging disorder. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, I'm 480, and you in conjunction with my psychologist, we discuss, we kind of talked about some practical strategies, right? Like the one plate rule, right? I mean, like if you go out to eat, or not go out to eat, like you go to a family like event, right, where it's kind of like all you can eat, like buffet type style. You said, you know what, just you can have what you want, but make sure it's on the one plate. Well, obviously, don't stack it up, right? You got to be
Yeah.
practical, you know. But
Exactly.
practically speaking, you can have what you want on that one plate, because chances are you're not gonna hit over your calories if you just eat one plate, unless you're eating like 4 pies, which would be over. But you see what I'm saying? Again, you gotta be practical. But at the end of the day, that was a good rule of thumb, is what I call it. And we discussed so many things like that,
What
where
about,
I would,
we
yeah.
talked about I remember it was probably I think it was the first Thanksgiving that
Well,
we
yeah, I was
were
scared.
away, and we talked about, okay, well, you know what, let's maybe bank up a little bit of calories early in the day so that you have
I
them.
do that a
So
lot.
it's not like, people might hear that and think that that's like, oh, that's just a way to binge. No, it's a strategy
Yep,
to get through these hard times. You got to
exactly.
remember there's a difference between strategies and behaviors, okay? Because behaviors extend day after day. Finding a strategy that's going to work for you to be able to stay on track as much as possible and not overstress about things. If you do certain things on holidays, right? Or you're going away, we've had many instances where you've gone away on little mini vacations and
Yeah,
we've had to adjust. And it's all about that communication and working through these little strategies. And it wasn't easy for you at first.
of
And
course not.
I mean, realistically, for anybody, it might not ever get easy, right? But it gets more controllable. It gets more
Amen.
tolerable. You get more comfortable with these strategies and learning when you push through these hard times, right? You push through these difficult times and you come out okay on the other end. All of those instances give you more strength to keep pushing. And
Amen.
for you, it was all about taking these baby steps, right? Let's let's not go from A to Z. Okay, let's go from A to B. Let's make sure that
I
you can
love it.
achieve one little step, because that builds confidence. Then you go on to C, then you go on to D, and so on and so forth. And it's just been amazing to see. I mean, let's talk a little bit about, obviously being 480, it's kind of a wake up call that you need to get some help. But was there a specific instance,
Yeah, I'm
something
gonna
that
tell
happened
you.
that was like, this is it. I got to do this or I'm going to die.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. Yeah, I actually want to talk about this, and I'm gonna be like a little bit, vulnerable here, okay? Because this is a very personal thing to kind of say to a lot of people, but I could not wipe myself,
Yeah.
okay? I was 100 pounds away from being on the My 600 Pound Life TV show. If you think about it, I was
Right.
almost 500 pounds. And you guys see them on TV. So like, I imagine someone roughly that way, a little bit less. I couldn't wipe myself. I couldn't sit at booths at restaurants. I would get laughed at by, like like the jerks that, and then I would get like insulted. If I touch it was like horrible. This is really vulnerable, but I'm trying to communicate what it was like. I would have to wait until my fiance got home so she can help clean me up. Yeah, it was that bad because like when you're that big, you can't reach. I know
Right.
a little TMI, but let's get very serious here. And then but the major catalyst is what I would say in this reaction was when my fiance came up to me, was girlfriend at the time, and she said, "I don't want to lose you. I I no, I don't want to be a widow, right? When
Right.
we get married. I don't want my kids to grow up without a father. Like our
It's
future
hard.
kid.
It hits hard.
Like we don't have kids, but she's saying like in the future, like when we have kids, I don't want them to grow up without a father. And so what I did was I fixated on that image. I actually envisioned me in a coffin and my future kids that I don't know how they look like just crying. And then I said, that is a scary enough picture for me to get my ASS moving.
Right.
So I every day from when I was 480, I I woke up, I had that image and I said, goodbye. I'm going to run away from that place. Run away. Act in a manner that runs away. So I went to the gym and then I ate better and all that. If you want to implement some behavioral change, you need to have not a place that you want to go. Like, okay, I want to look, jacked and all this. Okay, cool. That's not like enough pull power.
Right.
You also want a place that you don't want to go if you don't do it.
Right.
I had those two images in my head.
One of my favorite things, and it kind of goes along with this, is that a lot of people will tell me or they'll reach out to me about coaching mentorship or I want to do this, I want to do that. What's my suggestions, right? And this kind of goes for anything. I tell people, listen, you might not know what you necessarily want right now. Okay. Let's focus on what you don't want.
Yes, amen.
If you figure out what you don't want, that can be as much of a driver as actually focusing on what you do want because you weed out all this bad stuff, right? In your case, it was death, right? You know this isn't an option. This is not an option. So that takes a whole lot of load off
Yeah,
the plate
and
and then
then
and clears you up because a lot of times we don't know necessarily what we want
no,
because we still have all this garbage of like fear and this is what I
amen.
don't want on our plate. Well, take that off your plate. It clears
And
it up. For you,
I
it's
wanna
that's really helped.
I wanna talk about like the health problems I had really
Mhm.
quick. This podcast would be 2 hours if I want to tell you everything, so I'm gonna give you a little bit. I had high blood pressure, pre-diabetes. I would lose feeling in both my legs.
Mhm.
I had sleep apnea. No, 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 not regular sleep apnea. Ready? I stopped breathing 66 times an hour. So times that by 8, that is the number of hours, or that is number of apneic events I would have per night of sleep. 66 per hour times 8, right? Um, so that's like death. I mean, that's like okay. So I had all that. I had a heart murmur, which I still have, but it's just a physiological from like birth, and it's like not like problematic. But
Genetic, yeah.
I had like a lot of health problems, right? And then now I don't have anything. I was on 7 different medications at age well, okay, I'm 25. It was a year and a half journey. I was 24 or
Yeah.
23 and a
I
half.
agree. And you had probably been on them for a while.
Yeah, I've been on it because, right, like when I was gaining weight, I started to develop those again. Remember, I was 400. I had some health problems, but not as bad.
Mhm.
And then I lost 200. They were all gone. And then I went to 480 and they all came back and more. And then now it's gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, one thing I want you to talk about a little bit is when you made that commitment this last time, right?
Yeah, this last time.
Where you're at right now. Um, you, I think, probably learned a lot from your past experience, obviously, of losing it and gaining it back. And you made the commitment to yourself to do it the right way this time,
Yes, sir.
right? Because you went on crash diets, gained it all back, things like that. I want to do a screen share here real
Oh,
quick, and I
yeah, go
want
ahead.
to show people um, your image here. So can you guys see that? Can you see that?
Yeah, yep, I can see it too.
I'm still trying to learn how to do this on Zoom.
No, you're
So
all good.
this was Randy when he came to me.
Yep, 480.
This is you as of a couple months ago, but honestly, you're still,
Yeah.
like that right there. Um, guys, just get this visual in your head. All right. Now, this is a guy on the left who had been heavy, lost all the weight, got heavy again, right? He made the decision to do it the right way over the last year and a half to get down to this. And we're going to go into a little bit about, where he's at right now in his journey and what phase we're in. But he just continues to get better. And we're actually in a phase right now where we're adding calories back into his diet.
Yeah, that's a lot of
But
fun.
talk a little bit about that moment when you talked about it. Your now fiance was afraid of being a widow, afraid of raising kids without you. And you made that decision not only to get better, right, but to do it in the right way. And how did you come about that? Who did you start following? How did you get in contact with me? Talk a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
about that.
So me, I'm a big Lane Norton guy, right? You know Lane, if you're watching this, hi. No, but I mean,
I don't think he
his
watches my videos, but
okay.
uh,
Um,
he might this one though.
yeah, but no, I started following him, right? And started following Team BioLane, right? Because I like the message of moderation and that Fat Loss Forever book, a
Mhm.
good book. Moderation and you don't got to do keto diet. You don't have to do low carb, paleo, this, that. Like there's so many diets. And because I I also was part of that just chain dieting, right? So I
Yep.
wanted to break free from that huge restriction. So I started following Team BioLane. Then I started, looking at the coaches and all that. And I say, you know what? Okay, I made the decision that I want to lose weight. I have this very scary vision that I want to run from. I have a psychologist to help me with the mental side, but he's not gonna sit here and teach me macros. That's
Right.
not his job, right? Which is okay. Now I need someone with a physical side. I got
Mhm.
psychology done. I made the decision. I'm a very conscientious, hardworking person, which is evidenced by, I still lost weight the first time. I did it the wrong way, but the fact that I still did it in some capacity
Yeah.
really sheds light
You
on
have
the
discipline.
character.
You have
Yeah.
discipline for sure.
So
I can attest to that.
yeah, so I have all the variables. Now I just need a good coach who knows psychology, and just by chance you have a story similar to mine. I know it's the other side, but it's the same genesis. It's the same cause.
Right.
And then I said, I kind of looked into the background of the coaches, and I wanted someone within BioLane because that team would have the same moderation mindset, that I really like,
Right.
or at least like the flexible approach. Um, then I wanted, then I said, okay, I'm going to choose, David Mathis because we have a very similar story. I mean, okay, the story part is what first, got me about, the OCD, and I believe you were in the ICU and all that.
Mhm.
So I was the other extreme, right? So I said, okay, this guy gets it. Forget he can teach me macros. I don't really care about that, but he gets me personally.
Right.
So that's why I chose you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
And we started off just because of where you were at. Like we just started off on a monthly coaching type of
Yeah, once a month.
scenario because it was important for me as a coach, first of all, to gauge your discipline, right? Gauge your consistency, gauge your adherence, which I mean, now looking back on it, knowing you for the last year and a half, it's like, how could this guy not be consistent, right? You were like the model of consistency. But you needed to work on that consistency and patience. And so, we would talk and I would give you, little bits of homework, things to work on, things to try,
Yeah.
mostly from a mental and from a behavioral type thing. Like, try to make these changes. Let's stick to these macros for a while.
And
Let's
they
see what we
helped.
get. And I mean, it was like month after month. And of course, we were in contact between then, but like our main coaching calls and stuff. And it was just like, man, it just clicked with you real quick. And what do you think though, looking back on it from the start, what do you think was the hardest part for you to switch and start implementing?
And I want to say that it's still a hard part. How about that? The
Mhm.
scale.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it because it's actually this is where I weigh myself, and it's like right there, the scale. I think that was the hardest part, and it's still hard. I'm not going to lie. Like I
Mhm.
woke up today and I gained like zero point 0.4, and I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? It's not good, but I'm so much better off than I was prior to us doing this.
Right.
Because I'm gonna tell you why. Not many people know this. And this is an important, very quick story for me to explain. So I started my binging episode when I gained the weight back, right? So I'm 200 pounds. This is like the first time I lost it, right? This is years ago. I'm gonna tell you why. The day I said I'm gonna binge and forget everything, and I never looked back because it involved the scale. It involved the scale not telling me that I'm doing a good job, right? So what happened was, there was a day that I wasn't happy with my weight rate of loss, and I fasted all day. I just said, today I'm not gonna eat because I know if I don't eat, I'm gonna weigh less the next day.
Yeah.
That's not this makes sense. But again, I'm like 21. I'm like really young, and I don't really know much. But then I did it, and the next morning I actually gained a pound. So I did not witness the fruits of my labor, right? Which the labor was the fasting. It was miserable and it wasn't worthwhile. So I said, F it all, I'm gonna binge. And from that day, I binged for a year straight. So that day was like the binging day.
Gotcha.
Um, so the scale caught so I don't want to blame the scale. The way I interpreted the scale caused caused the weight gain. Now, you and I revolutionized, completely changed the way I view the scale. I mean, like I'm not perfect, so the way I view it now is to think about it rationally, right?
Yep.
And again, we all know fluctuations are normal and all this, but I don't think we really know it, right? Because when we're actually faced with the fluctuation, we still freak out, so we don't know it. So it's not cliche.
So this is why having a one-on-one coach is very crucial because listen, no matter when you're trying to go for a goal or not, you can't be 100% objective. Okay? You can't because we can rationalize everything. Like when I eventually start a prep, right, for a show, I'm going to have a coach, right? Because there's certain things that we as humans have these built-in mechanisms where we can change our perspective and reality really quickly, right? And you have to have that objective eye. I'm sorry, and that's where I think we started working on those scale instances, understanding that listen, the scale is not the end all be all. It does not tell the whole story. There are going to be some fluctuations, and I think one of the biggest keys for you, and you can kind of go into this a little bit, um, has been, when after holidays, for example, or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, where I tell you and we talk about it going into it, probably gonna see a little weight gain. Okay, that's normal. What we're gonna do is we're gonna not obsess about it. We're gonna get right back on track the next day, and within 4 to 7 days, you're gonna see your weight stabilize
Goes
back
back
out.
down.
But it took you a lot of trust, not only in me, but trust in yourself to go through that process the first few times. And what happened? You saw exactly what I told you would happen. And that built up confidence. But here's the issue is that a lot of people in your circumstance or other circumstances, they're afraid to take the chance because they're afraid to fail.
Amen.
And I think that with you, not only working with me, but working with your psychologist, you got over that fear of failure at least
Did.
enough
No, I
to
did,
go
definitely.
through this process to start. And then you saw the results, right? Pretty much everything I've told you that was going to happen was going to happen. But it's not because like I'm this guru, right? It's because I have experience and I see, but my main job with you was getting you to see it. And you, it was tough for you at first. And you know, it was very, very tough. But once you start seeing the results, once you start believing like, listen, one bad day is not going to ruin me, right? I can make up for it. I'm going to be better. A lot of times we actually saw eventually within 3 or 4 days, your weight went back down and low.
Less. Yeah, yeah, it was less than the original
Yeah,
weight.
so I think with you, that exposure therapy, right?
Yes.
Not only
Oh,
the cognitive behavioral therapy, but the exposure therapy
amen.
was huge.
And also, what's the most interesting part is, and this is really going to shed light on the disconnect between head knowledge and what actually happens when you're in the moment.
Right.
I am a statistician. That is my career. I love data. In the future, when I get my degree, I want to work in assessment and statistics for particular companies and all that. So I know this.
Right.
For example, I know when it comes to work how to be disinterested in the data. They teach you. This is like your rule. Don't like if you're doing an experiment, you want to be unbiased. You want to just look at the data, make conclusions, and then act.
Right.
But when it comes to myself, when it comes to such a trivial, juvenile context like one tool, weight scale, a number, I freak out. I don't stop and realize, as if it was my work, okay, I had 4,000 milligrams of salt last night. I didn't use the bathroom this morning. I had no activity last night, and I ate more carbs at night. That is, those are what we call factors that contribute to water weight gain. But the
Right.
next morning, I'm still having a panic attack. That again, head knowledge, what I actually experience, disconnect. So I'm going to treat the scale like I do for my work or for my school. I look at the data. I say, okay, I have a control group. This group did more than this. Okay, what are some factors on why the one group did better than this group? Okay, whatever. I'm going to treat the scale in the same disinterested, objective fashion like I do with my job.
That's huge. That's huge. And honestly, you know, I don't think you and I had even talked about your perspective on it like that. And that's really cool for me to hear. Um, you know what? So you went from 480, okay, down to we got you down to, was it 210 or 215 before we started the reverse?
215.
215. Okay. Um, and we've been on the reverse for roughly, I don't have your sheet pulled up right
We've
here,
been on for 12 weeks now.
12 weeks now. And how many calories did we get down to?
Okay.
And where are we at right now?
Yeah. So this is like a very fun thing, right? And this is a really testament to our coaching relationship. But 2200 was when I ended the fat loss phase. Now we are about 3020. Let's just say 3000.
Right.
So that's about an 800 calorie increase. And there was actually, and then the weight went down from 215 to I'm about 203.5, like on average. So like 9 pounds, right, or something. Yeah. So I'm down almost 9 pounds while increasing 800 calories.
And
Oh,
what's important about that is I don't want people watching this thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go on a reverse diet and I'm going to lose weight. That's not why I wanted to point this out. What I wanted to point out was the reason why everything is in phases. Okay. So the reason why we got Randy down to 2,200 calories is because we had a specific goal. We were going to push it hard, but we had this goal to come out of it. Right. So we weren't going to keep them at 2,200 calories for a long time. It's like if you go into prep, right? Like you are going to push it, but then you got to have an exit strategy. And we had a specific number that we wanted to get to for Randy because of starting the reverse diet at a lower body fat percentage, a lower body weight, so that he can be more receptive of it. Now, what happened is that he went so far down in calories, right? Because you were about 4,000 or so, a
when I
little
met,
over
you mean like when we
when you
first
started.
started? Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was 3,000 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we took him down and it was purposeful. And the big thing is we were looking at the rate of weight loss per week. Okay. So at the beginning, him being 480 pounds,
Yeah, I was a lot.
safely, we were looking at about somewhere between about 4 and 5 pounds a week.
Yeah.
Now, there was weeks where he had more. There was months that he blew it out of the water. But when you're someone that's that obese, you can stand to lose at a little bit quicker rate than say someone at like 200 pounds, going down. So we got him down. We always made sure that we were going at a good rate, not too fast, not too slow. If we needed to, we kind of adjusted calories when need be, but we got him down to this goal. All right. And when you get yourself down, and it's going to be different for everybody, when you get yourself down to a low calorie range, your body is going to start adapting. Okay. And we kind of started seeing some of that. And so we're like, you know what? This is a good place. We've hit our number. Let's start the reverse diet. But as you start increasing calories for some people, it revs up your metabolism again. All right. So we were going into it. We knew there would probably be some weight gain. We were expecting some weight gain.
Yeah.
And there will
And there
be.
still is. And by the way, this week, just so you know, the
Yeah.
check-in, I gained like 0.4. And I'm just
Yeah.
gonna give you like an early little check-in.
And that actually is a really good point that I'll get into here in a minute. So, yes, over the last 12 weeks, we have seen 9 pounds come off. Okay. The reason is because his metabolism is starting to kickstart again. All right. He's adding new lean body mass, which is also increasing his caloric intake needs. So his
Yeah.
body is handling this very well. And for someone Randy's size, I mean, my estimate for you is probably when we're around 3,500 calories, we're going to start seeing more consistent weight gain. But that's okay, guys, because not all weight is bad weight. All right. And that's something that we've had to work on a little bit. And we talked about going into this reverse diet that, listen, you're going to see some weeks where you see a little bit of weight gain.
Yeah, it's hard.
But realistically speaking, that's going to be water, right? That's going to be a little bit more food volume. You're going to have more glycogen in your system. And the big thing that I think people forget about during the reverse diet is that if you are providing enough stimulus through your training, right, you're going to build a little new muscle tissue. And that has to weigh something as well. And so the fact that Randy, we got him down to 215, we got him down to 2,200 calories, we're back up to a little over 3,000, and he's lost weight, is a testament to not only his consistency and his patience, but the fact that we took this in phases and we did not rush it. See, we've been at this for over a year and a half. Okay. And when I tell some people sometimes, like, listen, realistically, your goal that you want to achieve long term is going to take a year, maybe 2 years. They take a hike. I don't hear from them again because people don't want to be patient. And your greatest asset was your willingness to listen, your willingness to have faith in me and have faith in yourself. And you saw those results and you were patient. Okay. That is the reason why we're having the results we're having right now. You committed to yourself a long time ago that it doesn't matter how long this is going to take, you're going to do it the right way. And guys, I cannot stress that enough. If we would have rushed through his weight loss, could we have lost weight a lot quicker in a year and a half? 100%. We could have. But that was going to put him right back in the same position that he was before.
Yep.
He would start developing those binge eating cravings, those habits, things like that. And we'd be back to square one. So I just want to, first of all, commend you, not for trusting me, right? And you know how much I appreciate you trusting me and me guiding you through this. I want to just point out how proud I am of you trusting yourself and making sure that you committed to yourself to do this the right way.
Yeah, and I think David, what really, and I actually mean this too, what really separates you from a lot of people that I see is, I guess, like the rawness and the realness, and the fact that you're not afraid to get, I mean, to just, okay, like you're not those typical guys like, oh, just work harder and just, like mirror pics and veins and like gym life. You know what I mean? I know that was really a weird description, but like I think
I get it.
people listening and watching like know what I'm trying to say. You're very real, and you're not afraid to talk about that stuff. Oh, like you look good, Randy, and stuff. And even like when I send you photos, by the way, this is interesting. And I send you a photo, you're like, oh, like like nice pump. How are you feeling today?
Yep.
You didn't just sit there and say, dude, you look amazing, sexy, you're awesome. You said, how are you feeling today? You want to make sure that I'm feeling okay today. I'm doing all right. The food. So you care about the people personally more than how I look. That is something that separates you from another coach that would be, man, you look amazing, bro. Keep grinding. You actually care, which is a long-term strategy. Because how I feel, how I think is a long-term strategy. Because I mean, how I look can change, right?
Absolutely. And
For
it's
the, yeah,
going to. And it's going
yeah,
to. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for that. That means a lot. Um, you are going to change, right? But that's what we want, right? Like you want to put on some more muscle right now. You want to change your physique. You're in a good head place to go through these changes because you put in the work, you committed to working on your mental health first. And for guys, for people out there, I don't want to turn this all into like a whole mental health thing, but like hopefully many of you guys have read my book. If you haven't, go read my book.
very
But
good
the
book.
point of the book was to illustrate that you have to get vulnerable if you want to get better. Okay. And being vulnerable doesn't make you weak. All right. It doesn't make you a sissy. I was a military man. Okay. I went through my issues. If a military man, which years ago it was not easy to do, it's a little bit easier now, thankfully, but to come and get help and do all this stuff, it's not easy. Okay. And what Randy's telling you is the same thing. It's not easy to admit when you need help. All right. But you have to be real with yourself. You have to be real with, listen, I'm not getting the results I want to get doing this on my own. Okay. And hiring a coach, going to a mental health therapist, whatever it is, that is a commitment that you need to make. That is a commitment that you need to make for your long-term success. And one of the best things about Randy is that, we talked at the very beginning when we first started working together is like, don't sacrifice what you want long-term for what you want now. Right? You want to drop all this weight right now. That's great. We could do it. Are you going to be healthy? No. Is it going to sustain? No.
Nope.
What are you going to learn along the way? Absolutely nothing. And the best benefit of this whole thing, even as proud of as I am of you to get down to where you're at and how you look and how you feel, it's the lessons that you've learned along the way and the belief in yourself that you've gained that's going to carry you through a lifetime.
Yes. These are long-term strategies that can also extend. No, this is something very key. It extends upon any domain in my life. It doesn't
100%.
have to be fitness. The things that you taught me and that we kind of work through about not freaking out about the scale, look at things rationally, goal setting, working towards goals, that applies to marriages.
Mm-hmm.
That applies to work. That applies to video games. And obviously, I play a lot of video games from like my little setup. That applies to everything. So, guess what I do? This is something very important for me to say. I was faced with a crazy school task the other day. I'm being serious. I had to do my thesis. It
Mm.
was, and I was doing the thesis and I was stressed out. And I remembered, I was like, I, I I remembered what we talked about
Mhm.
and our journey about break up the thesis. You don't got to do it all in one day. It's not going to get done in one day. If you have enough time from that, you can kind of work towards it, A to B to C. Remember,
Yeah,
these
100%.
processes, these systems are transcend. They transcend any context. So, and then I said, and this is what I always do. I say, if I can lose 280 pounds, I can do this damn paper. If I
Love
can lose 280
it.
pounds, I can help work on my relationship. I
Mhm.
can get a good job. I use that experience as direct evidence that I possess the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities to combat any goal and to get through it because of what we went through.
Yeah.
I use our experience as an anchor. Okay, this is hard, but I can do it because I did this. Because this is harder in comparison. Because
Oh, yeah.
people tend to work harder on their jobs than on themselves. So if you find someone who rarely works hard on themselves, don't be afraid. They'll work hard on them jobs because it's much easier to work harder on their jobs than themselves.
Man, that's so much truth in that. So much truth. And you know, I was gonna, I think you just answered it, but I was going to ask you what's the greatest lesson you've learned from going from 400 to 480 down to that? But I think you just answered that perfectly, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you just from a you know, as your coach and everything, and one that's always trying to look to improve and be the best coach I possibly can for everybody. What do you think is the greatest asset of weekly one-on-one coaching? And maybe it's with me or just in general, right? Like I really want to know because I think there's a lot of people out there that are probably going to listen to this and was like they're on the fence about hiring a coach. Like, is it really worth the money? Like all this stuff. And first and foremost, I'll tell you, there's a lot of coaches out there that aren't going to be worth the money. I'm not trying to sit here
It's true.
and brag on myself, but I'm just saying there's a lot of bad coaches out there. But what I want you to do, and what I want, hopefully this podcast, or well, it's not really a podcast, it's a video, to explain to you is just from a client's perspective, right? Randy's been a client with mine for over a year and a half. What is that one-on-one coaching experience? What kind of value does that bring to you?
Incredible value. Like I loved our little like once a like month,
Right.
thing. Okay, so just if you guys remember when I did fat loss with the math, it was like once a month because there wasn't really like a need at 480 to really do like every week. Now I'm going through rapid changes. I feel like quickly. So
Mhm.
now like once a week is very useful and very like appropriate. But I feel like I don't know. I get like it's just that there's okay. I feel like every week it's like a reset. Like
Mhm.
like for example, okay, here I'm gonna give you a situation if you don't do one-on-one coaching. Okay,
Okay.
so for example, if you have like a bad day, um, I get very excited that okay, I get to talk to David soon about it, right? I get to write in the reporting instructions, which are which the things that you send for people to kind of send to you once a week. Okay, hey David, I had a bad week on Tuesday. And then we get it straightened out quicker. If we didn't have one-to-one coaching, it was a month, then I got to say, oh my God, I have to wait all the way until, and yeah, I mean, I can send you like an email and all that, but like you're busy and there's like, response times, but I know that we have a day
Right.
that Monday, I'm going to send this guy an email because that's our check-in day. And then I get to hear from you because like I love your videos. And then we talk about, okay, what happened that day, right?
Mhm.
You kind of talk about and respond to what I wrote. That is extremely valuable because it gives me comfort. Actually, here's the best thing. The one-to-one week coaching gives me comfort because I know that whatever problem I went through that week,
Yeah.
you're going to deal with. And also, if it was longer than a week, I might not get that problem dealt with. And that one day might turn into 2 days to 3 days because it's a long time till I'm talking to David Mathis again. But since I
Absolutely.
know Monday will curb it quicker, so the frequency at which the problem presents itself will be less because we have a less time window to kind of boom, we'll
You can
take
kind
care
of
of it.
nail it right in the head then and there. And I think a lot of people I think a lot of people with certain coaches and everything, and I think they're afraid to bring up their problems to them and thinking that it's going to like bother them. I've talked to other people about this, and they're like, "Yeah, I just feel like I can't bring up my problem to my coach. He or she always gets on me and all this stuff." And it's important that you create, you know, listen, you need to create relationships with your clients, right? There also has to be that respect and boundary of, listen, I'm in coach mode right now. And the reason I'm telling you things is not to get on you, it's to help you, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people that get in with certain coaches that their coach doesn't take time to get that relationship built. And then the client suffers because they're afraid to take any issues to the coach. And then, like you said, it doesn't get handled. It compounds into day after day after day after day, and it never gets addressed. And then the client gets frustrated, the coach doesn't know how to fix it because he
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
know
What
what
the
the
hell
he or
happened?
she doesn't know what the issue is.
Yeah.
And with you and with all my other clients, we try to create that, relationship of trust, of accountability, of encouragement, right, of support. And it's been really, really helpful. And you've done a really great job that every time there's an issue that comes up, because let's face it, we're not all perfect. We're gonna have issues. You've overcome a lot. I've overcome a lot. I still
Amen.
have issues every now and
And
then.
I do too.
But um, if you're not honest with yourself about what the issues are, if you're not honest with your coach or whoever you're working with, right, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Because as a coach's job, what I feel is, I'm here not to make a goal for you, right? It's not my place to tell you what weight you should be, what body fat percentage you should be, any of that. My goal as a coach is to create this environment of support, this environment of education, this environment of safely and efficiently achieving your goal while maintaining your health first and foremost. And we've been able to create that relationship over the past year and a half. And that is why I think you have been more receptive, and why you have been able to have the success you have. Because there's plenty of times that over the last year and a half, especially probably the first 6 to 8 months, where you didn't think we were losing fast enough, right?
Yeah. Oh
Or
yeah.
you had a bad day and you're like, I just want to give up, sort of things. And we had those talks and everything. But gradually, the last year, especially probably the last 8 months to a year, it clicked,
It did.
right? And it's important for people to know that it took you about a year for it to fully click. And that doesn't mean that you were doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean the approach was wrong. It just points out how important patience in your process is.
And also, this is not easy for me to do a reverse dieting mindset, because what has Randy been plagued with all his life? Lose, lose, lose.
Right.
Now you're trying to tell me that David Mathis is going to tell me that it's okay to gain? You're going to tell that to a 480 pound previous 480-pound guy? That is uncomfortable. That is the antithesis of my life, basically, because I've always been obese, obese, lose, 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 lose. And I never heard in my life, oh, Randy, it's okay to gain a little bit, right? It's good. Remember, like muscle tissue. That's why coaching is important, because at least in my context, um, is that I need a coach in this particular season, in this reverse diet season, because it's uncharted territory. Yeah, fat loss, like I know, lose, lose, lose. I get it, reduce calories, calorie deficit, but this is like, no, we're gonna increase. You're gonna eat 3,000. I'm like, oh shoot, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? If I did not use you as a coach, I would have kept reducing calories. And at this point, yeah, I could be 195. I'm looking really skinny, face looking weird, and I'm eating 1,500. And then now my body, like the metabolic, and if we adapt to 1,500, that's not a good lifestyle. That sucks. Now it's gonna take even longer to build back up to three. You know what I mean? So I kind of said, no, 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 stop. Less weight is not better, right? Well, and some, okay, when you're 480, yeah, better. But when you're like 200 at 6'3", I'm pretty tall. I don't think it's beneficial to get to 193, right? Like now you're talking not too good. So yeah, man, that's why our relationship helped me, and it is helping me during this unusual time for me, where it's okay to gain.
Yeah, man, you've handled this reverse. I mean, you know, the fat loss phase was one beast that we tackled. This reverse, and I think what's helped you a lot is, God, how many months before we even started it did we start talking about the
We
reverse?
did. We did. I think like
Probably at
3
least
months.
3 or 4 months, something
Yeah,
like
3 or
that.
4 months.
And I'm like, listen, this is things that you might experience, right? These are things that you might also experience. And this is what this means. This is why this isn't anything to fear. This is why it's important. And I think with a lot of people, it sounds like your situation also, that people just don't have someone that takes the time to explain it to them, right?
Yes.
Because when we don't understand why we're doing something, we can't fully commit to it. I mean, anybody knows that. We've all had to do stupid stuff that we didn't like to do. How much effort do you put into it? You don't, right? And it's not because you're lazy. It's because you're not fully committed because you don't understand it. So that's why it's really crucial. That's why I do my check-ins weekly.
And I love
I'm
it. Yeah.
available there to answer questions. We do Zoom calls, we do phone calls, we do stuff like that because if you're if you're not understanding why I have you do something, now it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to. You're not going to be afraid or uncomfortable still, right? But if you don't understand at all why I started you on a reverse, right? How are you ever going to be successful, right? And how are you ever going to be able to come to me with issues? And you have to be able to sit there, explain to them things that might happen and might not happen, and explain to them why in the long in the not long the grand scheme of your goals, why this is important. And for you, the grand scheme of your goals is to put on some more muscle, right? And then diet back down to a very sustainable maintenance calorie level. Like you said, going down to 1500, you would have lost a bunch of muscle, you would look scrawny, you would not be able to sustain. Here, yes, we've seen a little bit of weight loss on the reverse diet. Eventually, that's going to end.
Yeah.
Be able to really put on some good muscle, get you up. Even if we put on, listen, and this is another thing that's important. He came from 480, right? And we had the talk. I'm like, if we get you down to 215, right? We go through a reverse. Let's say we put on 20 pounds. Okay. Let's say 10 of that is muscle,
And the other
which
10's
is
fat.
very achievable, right?
Yeah.
And then we diet back down, but then you diet back down and you're maintaining at 125 of solid muscle, 10 to 12% body
Yeah.
fat, and you're
And you
maintaining
look better.
500 calories a day.
Yeah.
That's the secret, guys. The secret is not a special diet. The secret is not a special workout. The real secret is getting somebody to believe in themselves, believe in the process, and be patient.
Amen.
That's it.
Patience is everything. And you know what the thing is that everyone, I feel like people, it's so cliche, patience, mental health, moderation. But it's cliche because it's true, guys.
Right.
Like that's why. Like I feel like people just use the word, oh my God, like that's so cliche, like ugh, like as like a hand waving thing. But it's cliche because it's been true for thousands of years. Patience is everything.
Yep.
And like I just hate to use these buzzwords because I know 480 Randy is like, all right, David Mathis and Randy, okay, patience, But like, dude, like it really is. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
And the reason was because we broke it down into small, achievable sections.
achievable. Yeah, I mean, when
We
you,
talked about, I mean, I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but we're like, let's aim for 15 pounds this month. That's it.
yeah,
Which at your weight was very achievable.
achievable.
Now,
Of
some
course it
people will
was.
be like, oh my God, that like, no, if you're 200 pounds, 15% body fat, don't expect 15 pounds.
No, and
But
you
at
don't want to
480, the
expect
game
that.
changes. The game
Yeah,
changes. So we broke it down in very achievable. And there were some months where you'd be like, like I think I talked about a little bit ago, I'm not losing fast enough. And I would remind you, listen, you're 2 weeks into this and you're already right here. Let's give it another 2 weeks. Okay. And if
yes,
you don't hit the goal, we make some changes. And what happened? You always far exceeded it. Right.
amen.
And the only reason, and when you start with anybody who has this much trepidation in whatever phase they're going through, if you're a coach out here listening to this, right, um, you've got to start small, right? I know that you want those quick successes for your Instagram, for your promotions, but if that's what you're in this game for, you got to get the hell out. You're the wrong type for this. You need to make sure that you're doing what's best for the client first and foremost. And sometimes what that means is going slower than you think they should go, but slow enough to what they can actually do. So meet the client where they're at.
Yeah, no, I totally like agree with that. And man, dude, it's okay. Here's the thing. if you don't want a reason to go fast, I'm gonna give you this. Or I mean, when I lost weight the first time,
Mhm.
I did it too fast. I did a crash diet. And remember I said in the very beginning of the podcast, every action has an opposite and equal reaction, right? Newton was a very smart person for a reason, right? That is very true. The more you lose weight, or the quicker you lose it, the quicker you're going to gain it back.
True.
Mostly true, right? And the solution is so slow, sustainable behavior modification and mental modification to kind of lose it. Um, I mean, look at the difference. The only variable we changed, right? So the first time I lost, I did by myself, and I went crash, and I went super extreme. We lost it through slow, right there, slow steps, breaking down the goal into micro goals, and just being really slow about it. And also, I enjoyed the process
Yeah.
too. I went out to eat cheesecake, but I didn't eat the whole cheesecake. I went out to eat. Remember the first time I lost it, I blocked off the world, and I had instances where I'm crying. Where, for example, I went out to eat with my family, and I had to sit in the bathroom the whole meal time because I
Mhm.
couldn't bear not eating in front of people. I mean, like I couldn't bear not eating. Everyone else is eating, right?
Yeah.
But what a horrible way to lose weight, number one. Like, I mean, like, what a horrible process. Number two, it didn't even work because I gained it all back. We don't have a weight loss problem. We have a weight maintaining problem in this
100%.
country, right?
And part of the reason why you succeeded is because you learned from your failure.
Amen. And that's why I chose to kind of go to you because, again, I saw the culture of, like your whole team and you specifically, and I like flexible approaches. I mean, I mean,
It
I mean, that's it. I mean, like, for example, yesterday I had Dairy Queen. Okay, look. Yesterday I had Dairy Queen, but guess what? Dairy Queen has a nutrition calculator, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's pretty standardized. It's a chain restaurant,
right.
so I went on my Fitness Pal or whatever, and I typed in, okay, Dairy Queen mini Blizzard 400, boom, okay, has 24 grams of fat, this and that. That means that during the day I'm gonna budget and not eat 3 eggs because
Yep.
the eggs all have egg whites because it's less fat, more. You know what I mean? It's like a
It's improved
budgeting.
your quality of life.
Yeah, man. Because the old Randy wouldn't eat Dairy Queen. I
No.
would have I would have went out with my fiance, she would have had it, and then I would be like secretly like looking at her and like resentment. I mean, like that also ruins relationships if
Oh,
you're
it
too
does.
extreme. Because if she wants to go out to eat and I'm always saying no, 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 I'm not a fun person to be around.
No, no, it's gonna wear on the other person, and she's, you know what, she sounds like she's been so supportive of you over the years,
Yeah.
and I'm just, you know, like I said, we could probably go on 3 hours for this,
Yeah.
but, I just thought your story was really important for a lot of people out there, especially going through a hard time right now with COVID. A lot of mental
Yeah.
health issues are
Pandemic.
arising. A lot of people are putting on a lot of weight, because gyms are closed and they just feel depressed, and I just want you guys to know, um, you there's light at the end of the tunnel,
Of course
but
there is.
you have to be the one that chooses to make the change. Nobody's going to choose it for you. Nobody is as invested in your success as you should be. There are people out there to help. There are people out there that can guide you, either from a coaching standpoint or from a mental health counselor, mental health professional. But just stay strong. Make sure that you understand that the most important thing to your life is your health.
Amen.
You don't have it, you're not here, you can't be good to anybody else. So make sure you're taking care of your health. And Randy, just thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for telling your
Of
story.
course.
Um,
And,
yeah,
and you know
but
what? I wanted to show a quick picture. I don't know if you guys can see it.
oh
That
yeah,
was me in in the hospital bed. There you go. At 480 pounds. So
powerful.
remember what David just said. He just said there, there's light at the end of the tunnel. If there was light at the end of the tunnel for this guy, there's
Yep,
light at the tunnel for you. I think that's a good way down.
100%, man. Your journey, your mental outlook, I think is going to help a lot of people. And like you said, we both have similar yet different stories, but the core of it all comes down to control, fear, and just not really believing in yourself. And
And
the way that
patience.
we turned that stuff around was by giving up a little bit of control, right? By
Amen.
seeking help, by reaching out and just being patient. And why don't you tell people, I mean, where they can find you, follow your journey,
Yeah.
things like that?
So yeah, so you guys can find me at the Instagram, and my handle is just Mada, Mada, and the underscore Tensai, Tensai. So yeah, so
I'll put
I
I'll put that in the bio
yeah,
so
yeah.
people can follow
Yeah,
you.
no, I
But
watch a lot of like, the anime and stuff, so don't, but that's why. But yeah, but yeah, so yeah, you guys can follow me on there. I'm always, posting, like motivational stuff and some of the things that David and I are doing.
yep. And we've got some big lofty goals. You're already this phase, you're already well ahead of them, and I'm just really excited to see what we can create from
Amen.
what your goals are. So thanks again, man. You guys, I hope you guys really got something from this. I am going to be starting up this interview series again more often. Do me a favor, you guys like this, please like, share. I think Randy's story is so important to get out there. Subscribe to the channel. And once again, you guys can find me at mathasfitness on Instagram. And for coaching, you could reach out to me, mathasfitness@gmail.com. I'll leave everything in the description box below, but please comment on this video. Let us know if you're someone who's struggling, right? Someone that's looking for help. Maybe, the community of people on here can help you or
Yeah.
point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, all right, Randy, you
All
take
right,
care, man.
everyone. All right, thank you, David.
Yep.